Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Tracey Devlyn, and I'm here with New York Times bestseller Liv Constantine to talk about her new psychological thriller, Don't Open Your Eyes. Can you hold that up
I
for
was, there we
there?
go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great. Such a great cover. Such a great
Thank you.
cover. So I spent some time on your website in preparation for this interview and realized that there was something missing from your header. I think you need to add to it Queen of the Twist or Queen of Twisty Reads, something in there to give readers a heads up that they better strap in.
Thank you. I don't know if I want to, make myself queen. That might might be a bit presumptuous, but thank you for that. I
Yeah, this book was just so amazing, and I think it's going to be one of those reads where I'm going to have to go back and reread it and analyze it while I'm reading it because I'm sure you've come across this where sometimes it's hard to turn the editor voice off whenever
Oh
you're
yeah.
reading a book,
Yes, yeah.
and that happens to me a lot. And but it did not happen with this book.
Oh, I'm so
I
glad to hear
just
that.
it's like, oh my gosh, at the end of each chapter, I'm like, stop it, Liv, I gotta go to sleep.
That's
So
the best
great
reaction.
job.
Oh, thank
Great
you.
job.
Thank you. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. It was a lot of fun writing this because it was a little bit different, from still a psychological thriller, but bringing in that dream component with
Hmm.
premonitions. And so it was something I've been kind of thinking about for a long time. So I was glad to be able to play around with it in the book.
Yeah. It was amazing. So before we get into your great book, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Maybe tell us
Sure.
a little bit about your writing journey, whatever you want to share.
Oh, sure. So I guess a lot of people always say, did you always want to be a writer? And I didn't know that I wanted to be a writer. I always loved to tell stories. And
Yeah.
I think back to my childhood and playing with dolls with my friends, and we would concoct all of these scenarios and that sort of thing. But I thought I wanted to be a criminal attorney, like a prosecutor. That was my goal for a while. And then the paranoid part of my brain began to worry that if I did that, the criminals that I put away would like come after me. I was like, all
I'm
right, I'm
right
not
there
doing
with
that,
you.
right? Yeah. And then I thought I wanted to go into psychology. And in fact, I had my undergraduate degree is in human development, which is helpful in writing these books. And then
Yeah.
I was going to continue on and get a master's in counseling. And then I realized I probably wasn't well suited to sit and listen. I would probably be telling all my clients or patients, like, here's what you need to do. So thought that's not a good fit. And then I was in marketing and in the business world. So then I think that's when I really started wanting to write, but it took a really long time. So I used to write at night, okay, when I was working corporate. And as you can imagine, working a long day and then coming home, it didn't get a whole lot done. Although, it wasn't like John Grisham getting up at 5 in the morning for 3 hours and
Yeah.
knocking out.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't until after I had my kids, I had taken a break for a bit. My sister and I wrote a book years ago called Circle Dance before I had kids. And that was not a psychological thriller, although there really was a thriller like subplot in there. So I think the seeds of the way our books were going to come out came from that. But then anyway, I moved after that. I homeschooled my kids for 5 or 6 years, which took a lot of energy. And it wasn't until 2013 I went to Thriller Fest in New York. We had moved to Connecticut. I was in Maryland all that time, and I saw an ad in like Writer's Digest. And I had been working on a thriller for many, many years at that point. And it really inspired me when I went and met all of these authors who had written so many books. And, that's when I just figured if you're going to call yourself a writer, then you need to buckle down and get to writing. And so I
Yeah.
finished my first book, which is a solo book. It's now under Elsie Shaw. It's called The Network. So that's a whole conspiracy thriller series that I write. And then I dragged my sister next year to Thriller Fest. And she said, well, I don't write thrillers. And I was like, yo, it doesn't matter. It's writing is writing. Little did she know. And she got inspired. And so we collaborated again. And that's when, we were at The Last Mrs. Parrish. And that was really the
Yeah.
book that launched our career. So that was in 2016 when we got an agent and a publisher for The Last Mrs. Parrish. And then after that, it's been pretty much a book a year. So
Gosh, has it been since 2016?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, it came
That's
out in
amazing.
2017, but as you know, that
Okay.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
the
sure,
year
sure.
to
That
get the
makes
book
sense.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It just doesn't seem like it's been that long since that because that was a Reese Witherspoon pick. Am I
Yes.
correct? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. which is amazing. I bet your writing career literally changed on a dime after
It
that.
definitely did.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
did. It really helped us, especially as a debut, how hard it is to get, no matter how good a book is. It's really tough to have everything align, the timing, the luck, the exposure.
yes.
Really being a Reese pick gave us a lot more eyes on our books. And yeah, I credit a lot of our success to Reese and to the book club. And they're so generous to their authors that they
Hmm.
still support subsequent books. And what's nice is now the group of us all have a chat together on Instagram,
Oh,
and we're very
cool.
supportive of it. It's like a sisterhood. So it's been wonderful.
That's really neat. I had not heard that before. That I really love that. And that but that's so Reese, isn't it?
Yeah,
She's all about, kind of female empowerment. And so
definitely.
that's really great. But you have to give you and your sister, obviously, you have to give yourself at least half the credit for this success
Right.
because you wrote a great book that got noticed.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Thank you. That was also a lot of fun. I feel like sometimes the fun books are the ones that you just so almost write themselves, that those characters, and that was The Last Mrs. Parrish was, yeah, and it still really holds a special place in both of
yeah.
our hearts.
I think the first book does, doesn't it? I think
Yeah.
for a lot of authors, there's just nothing because I think it lives in your mind for so long, and then you
Yes.
finally get to see it.
Yeah.
There's just nothing quite like that debut novel
Yeah.
on every level, and so yeah,
Absolutely.
I think it always does hold a special place for sure.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about Don't Open Your Eyes. Because it's so twisty, I'm like terrified of giving away spoilers. So I'm going to ask you to just tell us a little bit about it,
Sure.
whatever you're comfortable with.
Of course. So Don't Open Your Eyes, excuse me, it's a multi-point of view, but primarily focuses on Annabelle Reynolds, who is a successful PR executive, happily married with two beautiful children, living in the house of her dreams in a beautiful neighborhood, that has parties
Yeah.
once a month, just like the whole suburban, good life, or a perfect life. And the book opens with her having a nightmare where, it's not a spoiler, I don't think, to give this part, where her husband is choking her, and she's like, wakes up thinking how ridiculous that is because they've got this great marriage and it's actually their anniversary. But there are other components in that dream, excuse me, that seem like minor points that then come true. So that's a little unsettling, but she again just chalks it up to coincidence. Starts to have more dreams, and more details from these dreams come true until she realizes that they're not dreams, but they're premonitions. Now, not everything that she dreams, like, so she's got to distinguish what's a dream, what's a premonition, and the premonitions are of things happening to her family and the danger that they're in. So she's trying to prevent that. Nobody's really believing her, and she's trying to like walk that line between what can I, destiny choice, what can I prevent, what can I not? And then there's a parallel storyline where her daughter, the one she's worried about, is speaking to a young boy online who she hasn't met. Excuse me, I'm more worried. Is he really that? And the stories converge. We also go a little bit back into Annabelle's past and see sort of where some of her trauma comes from. So it's a psychological thriller that hopefully people don't guess, who the bad guys are and who the good guys are. But the difference from a lot of the past books, again, is that a little bit of a supernatural element of dreams and premonitions, which again was a fun direction to go into.
Yeah. And it was fun to read too because you didn't know what was going to actually happen and which was just a dream, which one
Right,
was just a
right,
dream. And so you really kept us kind of on the edge about that. I know that's cliche, but it was very on the edge because, like, okay, well, if she doesn't try to prevent this, and what I found interesting, and gosh, I hope this is not a spoiler, is that on some of the things that she did try to prevent, there was still a devastating outcome. It just didn't happen to her family, which I
right,
really appreciated that you did that because you could have just easily made it that, XYZ didn't happen at
right,
all,
right, right.
but it did in some cases go on to happen to somebody else. And so I thought
Yeah.
that was really interesting. That was
Oh, well,
very
thank you.
interesting. Yeah,
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 and it was fun because to her husband, of course, he's a doctor and he's very logical, and so she's trying to explain this to him, and he's dismissing it as she's just anxious because she does have some anxiety, right? She
yeah.
like, I mean, I feel like a lot of us mothers have anxiety. Where right? My mom used to say, or my grandmother actually, you don't stop worrying until you close your eyes, like for the last time. And I totally relate to that as a mother. So I
Yeah.
think some of her anxiety is normal, some of it is maybe heightened because of past trauma. And her husband is using, I wouldn't say using that, but sees that as really what is the root of what's going on and doesn't want to believe that, because he's like, what do you don't see the future? You're not a fortune teller. So
Yeah.
that's also at what point do we learn how to trust our own voice and not listen to those around us, even if they're well intentioned, right? We have to know, in our hearts what we can believe and what we should act on, which is not always
Yeah.
easy.
It's not, no, no. You mentioned your mom there, and I recall that you dedicated this
I
book
did.
to your mom, and you talked about some of her sage advice.
Yes.
Did some of the things that Annabelle's mom, when she had a really good relationship, was that some of your mom's sage advice coming
Yes.
out? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
curious. Okay,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, what do you hope readers think about long after they close the covers of this book?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think maybe the takeaway of like it's don't open your eyes is sort of a metaphor. I don't know if a metaphor for like walking through your life blinded to the truth, right? And not really
Hmm.
seeing. So I think to understand the importance of listening to your instincts and that whole thing of your those gut feelings that we get and that sometimes try to dismiss or like letting others define what our reality should be or what our reality is, and just to really examine those choices that we're making and understand that ultimately each of us is responsible for her own life. And while we can be influenced by those around us, like staying true to your heart and to what you believe, you should be doing is really paramount. Um,
Yeah.
because I think that's another thing again with Annabelle. It's all of it. It's so easy to, especially when you're busy, and we're in those years where you're busy and you're raising a family, or if you're not raising a family, you're working really hard, and we can just kind of go through without stopping to examine our lives. Are we really
Yeah.
living in an authentic way? Are we the people that we're surrounding ourselves with, people who are true friends, are we chasing things that really bring us
Mm.
happiness? Or are we just looking for status? I think just all of those, general universal questions.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Well, let's switch gears just a little bit and go behind the scenes. Is there a story that you would love to write, but you just haven't taken the plunge yet for whatever reason?
Yeah, it's similar on a similar track to this. It's a kind of a parallel universes story. So not necessarily like sliding doors, not so much one action then caused a different life per se, but I think like looking at the possibilities of different lives, right? And I think about my own life, just different choices that I've made along the way. And I can't help but wonder, oh my gosh, well, what if I had gone to school here, instead of here? Or what if I, right? What if I had done this or that? And,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
is fate going to find you no matter where you go? Or, how much can we determine that? So I think that's always fun. I'd read a book. This isn't exactly the concept, but it's along the lines of of kind of where I would like to go at some point. And it's called The Names. It just came out. I don't know if you
No, no, I don't.
it's a great story, and it's about a woman in a not a great in an abusive marital situation, and she's about to have a child, and her husband wants the child named after him, and like the third or fourth in the generation, and she doesn't want to do that. So, but she knows if she doesn't, there's going to be hell to pay. So, it's three stories. One in which she names the child John, and you know, it shapes his
Oh,
personality in one way. And another, she names the child Bear. And it's a
ah,
completely different story because, of course, what happens is the husband's furious and like, I don't want to give too much away, but
yeah,
the
yeah.
naming of the child makes circumstances change, which
Oh,
then
but then,
change his life. And then the other one I think was Julian. So there are three different
ah,
lives, and it alternate, and it was just so interesting to me, to
yeah.
have this, right, this one decision had such a big change, and she did it so
Wow.
beautifully. I mean, I was really, really in awe of that. So I think like I like playing around with those kinds of ideas. And I mean,
Yeah.
that is not, I am working on my next book, which is not about that, but maybe sometime in the future. Yeah,
Yeah,
I will get
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. That sounds very interesting. I hope you follow through on that. That would be great. That would be
Thank you.
great.
Yeah, yeah, I have to figure it out. So,
Yeah, that's always the hard part, right?
right.
Ideas are great. It's figuring
Right.
out the guts of it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Well, we know that writing requires long hours behind the keyboard. Do you have any tips for keeping yourself healthy or keeping writers healthy?
Oh, I thought you were saying any tips for getting to your word count, which
Ah, that's a whole, yeah, that's another
yeah,
question for sure.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think obviously, the drink a lot of water, eat healthy, those kind of things, take breaks, and probably don't overcommit. I think knowing what you're comfortable with and what you're capable. I have like, sometimes friends who are really on a short deadline, and it's so stressful, right? And that
Yeah.
trying to like work that
Hmm.
way, and sometimes it's inevitable and it can't be helped, things come up in life, but I
Yeah.
would say like try to give yourself the space and the time to do that. For me, like I usually do have a word count, and I will not let myself get up unless I finish that. However, the book I'm working on now, lots of different projects came in on the way, and so I got half of it done, and I really expected to be finished the whole thing by now. I mean, I'm not going to be late. I don't
Yeah.
think it's not due until the fall, but still. And so now I'm having a hard time getting back to that because I'm like a little
Ah,
easy on myself. So yeah, I think finding a balance between, you don't want to just say, oh well, I don't feel like writing today, so I'm not, right? But I think you taking breaks and giving yourself grace if you have a day where you don't feel well, or if something comes up to say,
yeah.
that's okay, then I can make it up here, or that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Totally agree. So when you do finish a book, what is your favorite thing to do to celebrate? Because it is a celebration, right? How do
Yeah.
you treat yourself?
It's so funny, I always think about the Stephen King novel, where I'm thinking James Caan, but that's not the character's name, that you know what I'm talking about, where he gets
Oh,
kidnapped by Annie Bates, and
yeah, yeah,
remember
yeah,
how he
yeah.
would like smoke a cigarette or whatever. He had
Misery. Yes.
misery. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
keep thinking I really need to have some sort of, I really don't have anything. I'm just like, okay, wow, I'm done. And then maybe I'll go out to dinner, but there's no, but now this will be my like 11th book. So I guess it's never too late. Maybe I really need to think of something fun. Do you have any suggestions?
I don't, I think dinner's a nice thing. It's just a nice, some little something to treat yourself. Doesn't have to be big and flashy, but just
Yeah,
something to say, yeah, this is, I'm done. Have a little drink,
yeah,
whatever your favorite meal is. Just, yeah, just, I think something. It's just, I always just like to hear how others, celebrate the end of
yeah.
their book. Some people don't, they just, I had one author who said that she just sits quietly with it and doesn't let anybody else know that she's finished it, and it's just hers for a little while,
Interesting.
and that's how she celebrates it. So it's just,
Yeah,
even something quiet like that. So that's great.
yeah.
Well, thanks for playing. Before we go, can you tell us what's up next for you? It sounds like you're in the middle of a book here, obviously. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you can share that's happening?
Sure, yes. So aside from Don't Open Your Eyes, I'll Hold It Up One More Time, which is out
Yes,
on the
thank you.
17th. I do have a novella coming out next Tuesday called Silent Echo, which is about a woman who sees the son she thought died in an accident on a social media post, and then is on a quest to find him. And then my sister and I are working, even this was solo for me, but she and I are working, almost finished another novella prequel in the Parrish saga with,
Ah,
right? And this one's
yeah.
about Jackson Parrish. So that,
Okay.
yeah, so it's sort of the making
Yeah.
of Jackson Parrish and how he got his start. So that, I don't know when that'll be coming out, but we're almost finished that one. And I will be together with her in Maryland for my tour. So we'll celebrate that when it's
Okay,
finished.
great.
Yeah,
Great.
we're finishing up edits on that right now. Yeah. And then just working on my next book. which I
Wow,
was
you are busy.
well.
You've got a lot of things going. That's great. Your calendar's probably got all sorts of different colors in it to keep things straight. I
I
bet
need to
so.
do that because yeah, I need to get a little more organized. I've been a little scattered lately, yeah, which is not
Uh,
typically me. But yeah, you know how I have things on my phone and then I have them on a print calendar, and if I don't copy it on
same,
the print. Do you know what I mean? Then I'm thinking, oh,
same.
I'm clear. I was like, oh no, you got to sync your calendars up.
I
So
know I can't let go of my print calendar. I don't know what it is, but I find myself using my phone calendar most, but I still
right.
have to write it down in my print calendar. It's so Gen X or something. I don't know
I
what
know,
it
but I think it's
is.
like something about just kind of seeing it there because you're right, your
Uh,
phone, I don't know if you don't look at it, but if it's
uh,
right there on your desk, I don't, but I have to be better about making sure that they're on both. So,
Sync, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, folks, when this episode airs, Don't Open Your Eyes will be out, so be sure to order your copy today. You will not be disappointed. You can check out Liv's website at livconstantine.com. Liv, what social media platform are you most active on?
Instagram,
Okay, all
definitely.
right.
Yeah.
And is the handle just Liv
It's
Constantine?
Liv Constantine too, because I think there was
Two,
another, yeah, yeah. So the
two.
number
Okay,
two, yeah, yeah,
okay, great.
yeah.
All
And
right,
all of
super.
those links are also on the website as well. Yeah, and
Perfect.
we do have a mailing list, and we give usually every month we give something away, so it's fun to
Yeah.
for
So
people to
go out and
support that.
subscribe,
Yeah,
folks.
yes,
Nothing like a free giveaway. Great.
exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thanks a ton, Liv.
Thank you,
It was
Tracy.
so nice to chat with you I've been a fan of yours as a reader, so this is kind of
Okay.
a fangirl moment for me, but this book was so good. I can't wait for readers to get their hands on it.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so great talking to you.
Yeah, you bet. Many thanks to everyone listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll be back soon with another great read.